And we're live! Welcome back, guys. Today marks the halfway point for my Facebook Lives. I'm doing a 30-day challenge, which means I am going live for 30 days straight. And today is day 14, which means we have a 4. And I think I'm going to get some help. There's the 10. 14! I have my wife, my amazing wife here, to bring her on camera. There we go. This is Lisa. Some of you guys may be familiar with her. She runs FTF Warrior alongside me, and we are married, so she's with me every day. She is a type 3 diabetic. Lisa, can you tell us what a type 3 is?
Yeah, so a type 3 is going to be someone that loves a type 2 or a type 1. Matt's a type 1. So, yeah, and I have grandparents that are type 2. So it's just a loved one or a supporter of a type 2 or type 1 diabetic.
So, she is my type 3. And everyone in my family's type 3. So in general, it's someone who cares or loves for someone who is a type 1 or type 2 diabetic. So recently, Lisa went to a conference, and this led to some info that I got from her, and we're going to talk about today, which is the diabetes police, which is can be loosely defined as when a type 3, someone who loves and cares for a type 1 or a type 2 diabetic, is a little bit too controlling of the type 1 or type 2s in their lives, and they monitor them a little bit too closely, such as, you can't have that cake, you're diabetic, or shouldn't you be exercising? And so it's these little nitpicky things that can kind of beat down at the diabetic and annoy them. So in this conference, she went to from TCOID, which stands for Taking Control of Your Diabetes. She learned about type 3s and the support that they can offer. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I went to that spotlight night over at UCSD, and I went really mainly to support Matt and to learn more about what type 3s can better support their loved ones that are suffering from diabetes. And so a lot of the stuff that they said were things that I already knew. But it's always a good refresher, and it's always a good reminder to, be empathetic and show compassion to people that are living with diabetes, because I don't know the struggles that Matt goes through. I can only imagine, and I do know that he, has to inject, and he has to deal with hypos and hyperglycemias, and so I know how frustrating that can be. And so just being a person of peace for him and being someone that supports him and just sits with him in the crap, so to speak, when the times are going rough, I think that's really what the whole main takeaway was to show empathy and to not rule around and say, you shouldn't be eating that, or just have a little bit of this, or, oh my gosh, diabetes must be the worst thing in the world. I don't know how you do it. My aunt had it and she lost a leg. Those are some horrible things to say, and examples of what you should not say to a type 1 or type 2 diabetic.
Indeed. So we do not like being micromanaged, as I'm sure all of you have experienced in your life. I'm sure these people that have micromanaged you meant well, but obviously after a while it can get a bit annoying. And so from this conference, I guess you could say, it's called a Spotlight Series from TCOID, Lisa picked up a sweet little pamphlet called Diabetic Etiquette. Now it's put out by Behavioral Diabetes Institute. I'll show you guys that. And it's a little pamphlet that has 7 tips on diabetes etiquette and how to properly support those loved ones of diabetes.
Yeah, and the Behavioral Diabetes Institute, I want to make sure that I had said that right, offers a really awesome variety of education for people with diabetes. And so I think that if you visit their website, they're a nonprofit based from San Diego, and they do a really good job at offering research and a lot of tips for mindset and mental health with living with diabetes. So give them a check them out and go look at their website and what they have to offer.
Absolutely. So we're definitely an encourager of going to check out new resources. We want you guys to be not only educated but empowered and feel like you can take this disease on in any way that is easier, because it is a tough one. So we are going to read their 7 tips for you guys of diabetes etiquette. Number 1, don't offer unsolicited advice about my eating or other aspects of my diabetes.
Honestly, Matt knows more about his diabetes, obviously, than I do. And so I feel like that one's a pretty easy one for me to follow.
She does a great job at it. Number 2, do realize and appreciate that diabetes is hard work.
Yeah, for a long time, when Matt would talk about his diabetes, I would just give him, I'd try to problem solve because I'm a problem solver. So I'd just be like, oh man, I went high after this, and I'd be like, oh yeah, let's try to figure out what you did wrong, which is like, not the best thing to say or do. And then, when he'd go low, I'd do something similar. So, I really learned how much value there is in saying, man, diabetes is hard, and you work so hard to keep your blood sugars in a good range, and I'm just blown away with how hardworking you are at this.
And that goes for all you guys out there watching too. I know you guys work hard to manage your diabetes. Keep it up. So number 3, don't tell me horror stories about your grandmother or other people with diabetes you have heard about.
Yeah, like this is what I said, is that friend who doesn't really care about you or anyone else, but just likes to speak and be really negative. This person, I can say I've never said anything like that to Matt, but I do know I've heard people say, things like, wow, my friend has diabetes, they lost a leg, or my other friend had diabetes and they lost their vision, and like from diabetic retinopathy. And so I think, like, don't ever say that ever to anyone. Like, if someone had cancer, would you go up to them and be like, man, my friend had cancer and they died? Like, I mean, I don't mean to be insensitive, but that's kind of, it's not exactly the same, but it is on a similar level. You don't want to be telling those things to diabetics. It's already hard enough that they have to live with this lifelong disease, and they know the complications. They don't need to be reminded of it on a regular basis.
No need to focus on the negatives. We try to focus on the positives, on how we can better manage our diabetes. Now to number 4 of the 7, do offer to join me in making healthy lifestyle changes.
Yeah, and I think this, for Matt, he is a very hard worker, goes to the gym, and he eats a pretty well-regulated and healthy, nutritious diet. And I think when we got married, I had to learn, not have as much junk food around the house because I wanted to support his lifestyle, his choices. And, ultimately it made me live a better lifestyle as well. But I think what was really cool about that is if someone's trying to make good choices and make good changes, you should be an instrument that helps them make those changes. You should help them to create a healthy environment, because healthy environments create and constitute an environment for change.
Absolutely. And I've heard many stories where people will say, I'm trying to make the changes necessary. I'm trying to eat healthier, but my family doesn't support me. They bring home Oreos and bags of chips and sodas. They make it very difficult. I open up my fridge and it's just a full fridge of temptations. And this is what that exact tip is for. If you're going to support your diabetic loved ones, it's going to make life a lot easier on them to make those nutritional changes in their lives. So number 5, don't look so horrified when I check my blood sugars or give myself an injection.
So I don't think I've ever been horrified from you injecting. It's always been something kind of normal for me. I think it was leaving the test strips of laying around everywhere. That's the part that really got to me. I'd wake up and it'd be in my, somehow get into my pockets, or I'd get into my shoes and I'd be like, how the heck did that get there? So I think that was the thing that got to me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, has blood in it. But I never really freaked out from seeing Matt's blood. Also, I am pursuing a career in healthcare, and the sight of blood doesn't really affect me, so I'm blessed in that way. But I do know some people that do kind of freak out from blood, and I think that there should be some grace given to them, because it's not always the easiest thing to see blood. But in that situation, they don't need to feel ostracized from society, and by making them feel different and making them feel like they're, weird, so to speak. It's not a good idea. Try to help make them feel included and quote unquote normal, whatever that means.
Yeah. And on that note, when I was first diagnosed, I was very embarrassed about my disease. I wanted to hide it from the world. Did not want anyone to know about it. And so I actually would go into bathrooms of restaurants, test my blood sugar, take my injection in the bathroom, in the stalls, because I didn't want to be seen. And I would come back out, pretend I was normal, pretend like nothing happened, and pretend that diabetes didn't exist, because a lot of my friends didn't even know that I had diabetes because I was so embarrassed to share that with them. And so then if you come home and your loved ones are then giving you a hard time for injecting or testing blood sugars, it just adds on that. And it can make life even more difficult and force those people with diabetes to feel even more embarrassed, because then the ones they trust the most are not even supportive of them. So it's very important that those who love their people with diabetes, the diabetics, that they do feel supportive or supported enough to inject or test their blood sugar around the dinner table at home, for example. Mm-hmm. And number 6, there's 2 more. Number 6, do ask how you might be helpful.
Yeah, like I said, I try to be a problem solver a lot, and I think a turning point for me being a better support to Matt was asking him in the moment, what can I do to help you right now? How can I best support you? And, you know, it took a lot of trial and error from me learning how to make that my first response, but I find, and I'm sure Matt can attest to that those words have a lot of meaning, and it also helps him not feel like I'm being sympathetic, but I'm trying to help him. Sympathetic in the means that I feel bad for him, I pity him, but it's more of like a collaborative, I want to help you.
Yeah, I think the most common how can I help was I'd be laying on the floor drinking juice a couple of years ago, and she's like, is there anything I can do? I'm so sorry you're going through this. And you're like, get me more juice, I'll be fine. But even just the offering of how can I help makes a huge difference. Now, thankfully, she hasn't had to get me juice laying on the floor for quite a while. I've had better control over it, but it's still nice to know that when I'm frustrated with my blood sugars, or even just had a rough day or a not very much of a sleep night, that she is there to offer that assistance.
You know, he usually doesn't ever want help because he likes to do it himself for the most part, but that offering of the help, I think that's what he appreciates. And then I just kind of let him do his thing, and I keep an eye on him. I keep checking in on him and seeing how he's doing. But yeah, I think asking them what they need is helpful, or bringing them something that you think they could need.
Yeah, being thoughtful. So, all right, number 7, the last one in the pamphlet. Don't offer thoughtless reassurances.
So that would be like saying, oh, go ahead and have that, you're fine. Or, you don't seem like you're low, you're fine, just keep going, you know, like you can drive, whatever. I think that would be one of them. Or like,
or also if someone were to say, hey, it could be worse, you could have cancer, you know, trying to make the situation seem lighter, and in a sense ignoring the issues that you're going through. If you're having a low blood sugar, people don't realize how bad that can actually feel. And you're like, come on, what's the problem? You're fine. You know, at least you haven't lost your leg yet to diabetes. And that's not cool.
Yeah, and I think that if I'm being honest, this is probably one that I struggled with a little bit. And it was because I just didn't understand. I've seen how functional he can be. And so I just didn't understand what being low meant and it was chalked it up to ignorance. That's what I'm chalking up to. But now I'm a lot better at that, and I'm a little bit more understanding. But yeah, just knowing that diabetes is a hard thing to deal with every single day, and thoughtless reassurance is like, at least you don't have this, at least this, that. It's still something that they have to deal with every single day, and it's still really tolling on their mental health. So keeping that in mind, and just, you know, empathy and compassion are huge.
Absolutely. And for those who have experienced low blood sugar or just wacky sugars in general, it's difficult to explain to someone who does not have diabetes how that feels, what you're going through. I remember early on when we were dating, I tried to write a list down of what a low blood sugar felt like, but I honestly could not fully grasp the concept and put it on paper because it's truly an experience I did not ever have before I was diagnosed with diabetes, so I didn't know how to put it in perspective as somebody who doesn't have the disease. And so for her being able to just be there for me and be supportive and loving and offer her help when she can, that makes a world of a difference. And if there are people that are your type 3s in your life, people who are supportive of you and love you, your family, your friends, try to educate them. Let them know that it is a daily struggle. There is a lot that you go through. It would be helpful if they were to support you in eating healthy with you, or making those choices with you, It may look different for everyone. For some people, they just want accountability. Hey, can you check up on me and make sure that I'm checking my blood sugars every day? And so this level of support varies person to person, but the first step is, if you are not a diabetic, but you are a loved one of a diabetic, is to offer that support. And if you are a diabetic, then that first step looks like you reaching out and asking for that support.
Yeah, I think that you said it pretty well. And, you know, I think educating people about what you go through and letting them know, and knowing that it doesn't have to be something that you go through alone, is really big, and that can help people understand you a little bit more and what you go through. Granted, they'll never really know unless they have it, but I think that having that vulnerable piece and letting people in is super healthy and helpful, and it could really help you out with a trusted loved one.
Yeah, so if there are some people in your life that you know would support you, but are not necessarily educated on how they can best help you, please feel free to share this video. Let them know these are just a few basic rules of diabetes etiquette, and it should improve your relationship drastically, because now they will know better on how to help, and they will feel more informed in your life. And then maybe that starts a conversation where you educate them on what diabetes really is, and it starts this long path of growing closer together and them fully understanding your day-to-day life. So if you are, please feel free to share this video. Send them our way if you have questions. Lisa is my wonderful type 3. Even last night, my Dexcom alarm was going off, and her first response is always, "Can I get you anything?" She's an absolute wonder, and I am so thankful for her. So if you are able to talk to your type 3s about this disease, do educate them. In most cases, if they love you and support you, then they will be open. They will be all ears to hearing about how they can better help you through this difficult disease that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I would say also that most people mean well, especially when they try to give you advice, unsolicited advice, or, you know, they are trying, most of the time when they're trying to help, they just love you and they care about you. I would say 99% of the time. And so, you know, just being patient with them is huge as well.
So to wrap it all up, the title of this live was The Diabetes Police, Good or Bad? Well, the diabetes police as a whole, bad, but the diabetes police typically mean well. As she mentioned just now, typically they mean well, and they're asking, should you be having that cake? Or, you know, it could be worse. They're not trying to say that you have it easy. They might be just saying that be thankful. And so they come from a good place typically, but if you're watching this as a type 3, try not to be the diabetes police, because as a diabetic, I can tell you it's not fun to be micromanaged.
Yeah, especially I think something that gets Matt the most is, you know, if you just had the right diet, that you would just be so much, you get rid of your diabetes. I think he's heard that all the time, and it's painful for me to watch, because I know how that affects him, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, don't say that.
Yeah, especially coming from my background as a nutritionist and personal trainer. Most people don't know that about me. So they come in offering all this advice, not knowing that I've studied and researched and experimented with many of these diets they're talking about. So yeah, don't be the diabetes police. Share this video with your loved ones, with your type 3s, and please educate them on this disease, because we need to spread awareness about what this disease truly is and how much discipline it takes to maintain healthy life and healthy blood sugars. Hope you guys enjoyed this live again. This is Lisa, my wife. She is currently getting her master's degree for occupational therapy, and she is also one of our key players, one of the founders of FTF Warrior. So we're happy to have her here, happy to have her chat. She is our first guest on the 30 Days of Live, and we've got a few more guests coming up. So I look forward to sharing that with you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and as always, keep up the fight.